When it comes to your food, local is just better. Shopping at your community-owned co-op grocery store for food that's locally grown and produced can make a difference in the world. After all, we value the people and the planet in everything we do. And we're dedicated to connecting you with the local suppliers that help keep our community vibrant and strong. Visit Green Star, your community co-op. Shopping local makes a world of difference. Go local. Go co-op. Go Green Star.
Hi, welcome back to Get Foodie. You know, everyone has been asking me, but what's your show going to do in the winter? After all, what can a local war cooking show have to do when it's snowing, when the fields are all empty and they've already been harvested? But as you'll see, there's a long list of local products available here year-round. Today we're visiting Cayuga Pure Organics, where they're cleaning, sorting, and packaging small red beans that were harvested earlier in the year. We'll learn about the sorting and packaging process, and then come back to the kitchen where we'll make a simple, basic chili with the beans and local organic beef.
We're also going to go to Green Star, where we're going to shop for local products in the bulk department. I think it's fun to go to the bulk department and find different kinds of flowers and beans to put in bags and take home.
We arrived at the Cayuga Pure Organics barn, where Anne gave us some interesting insight into growing and harvesting dried beans. Then we followed the beans on their journey through the fascinating machine that cleans and sorts them, and on into the bags and ready to be sold.
We plant the beans in late June, and then come about mid-October we harvest them. Probably grew about 100 acres of beans, maybe.
Wow.
We have probably, I'm gonna make a rough guess and say 8,000 pounds of red beans.
Wow.
But the stuff we do in bulk quantities, like some of the grains, we have about 50,000 pounds of oats, maybe more. So we put them in one of those bins outside. It has air that blows up from the bottom, and it circulates the beans until they finally are dry enough for us to run them through this cleaner and sell them. Because they have to be dry to keep. If they're too wet, you have to have them within the first week, 2 weeks.
Can you eat them when they're wet like that?
Yeah.
You can cook them?
They're great, actually. They take less time to cook, and you don't have to soak them as long, if at all. And so we can market some of them like that, but usually people want to keep their beans.
Yeah.
So, you know.
So are they more like a green bean or a lima bean at that point?
I mean, those would be really extreme. Yeah, but I mean, honestly, I go out into the field when I'm testing them and I eat them, and they taste just like green beans.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of like a very hearty green bean. You wouldn't want to eat a lot of them. We have this series of conveyor belts. You open the hatch from outside, and it brings it in from the fourth bin. It's in one of the big bins at the end, and it comes in through here, comes in on this conveyor belt. It gets shuffled into this bucket elevator, which goes to this bin across this cleaner, rather above this cleaner. And then it goes through the cleaner. So the way this cleaner works is that there's 3 screens, and everything comes into this container up here. And you'll see it's really loud, and it shakes back and forth. So everything falls through, and there's screens, there's brushes, and the point of these screens is that you want all of the red beans, the good red beans, to fall through this, and all the larger things to stay on top, and it gets put into one of those trash bins down here. And then this screen, you want all the best red beans to stay, and they get taken into that second bucket elevator and into the bin where the bagging is.
After bagging some chili beans and talking to Ann, we met with Eric Smith, one of the founders of Cayuga Pure Organics.
Well, Eric, tell me about how Cayuga Pure Organics happened.
Well, it started with two of us, myself and Daniel Lathwell. We had both been farming off and on all of our lives. I grew up on a farm. Dan's father was a professor in agronomy here at Cornell, and both of us had a lifetime interest in farming. Almost by happenstance, ran into Dan in the market, and he said, "Are you interested in starting an organic farm?" And we talked about the potential for growing seed and feed for the expanding organic dairy movement, and said, "Let's do it." So that was our beginning. So
Wow.
yeah,
You had the right idea at the right time.
we did. Green Star came to us, and Green Star and Regional Access, and said that they both would be very happy to have a local supplier of dry beans. And we were interested. We hadn't been growing dry beans at that point. At least we made a commitment to do that. And shortly after that, Viva Taqueria became the third really supporter. We had three big supporters: Regional Access, Green Star, and Viva Taqueria. Viva Taqueria has been our biggest customer over the years. They use a lot of beans. So
I think that it's a very significant step for people to take, to go from saying, okay, lettuce and tomatoes and pumpkins can be local, to saying, wow, I can eat local all year round.
right.
It's a huge advantage for people to have.
Well, that's I would say one of the most satisfying things of what we're doing is the interaction with people who really appreciate it. You usually think of local food as being produce, fresh produce. So when we first started this, we thought, well, will people really care if they get local beans and grains, because they could get beans and grains from the Midwest. But the people are amazed at the difference, at how even fresh beans taste different than the store-bought beans that may have been in the warehouse for a few years. But they're just so interested in local and knowing where the food comes from. That's the big event.
There are a lot of areas where there isn't that availability, where people don't have the ability to get local beans or local wheat, and so people don't even think of it as something that can be local. When I started doing Get Foodie, a lot of people said to me, "Oh, what are you going to do in the winter?" Well, that's fine now in the summer, but what are you going to do in the winter? And I said, well, what about beans, and what about wheat, and what about all of these different things that you're eating all the time, but you're never saying to yourself, oh, that, I could get that from right around here. That's something that grows in the fields that I drive by all the time.
Yeah. And one of the things that really surprised us, even when we started this, was how that there really is a difference between, especially beans, but grains too, but especially for beans, there really is a difference between the fresh beans fresh dry beans. They're still dry beans, but they're fresh beans. Right. They cook in half the time of the ones in the store.
Right.
I can walk into the kitchen at 4 o'clock and start with dry black beans and have them on the table by 6:30.
Wow.
So it's not the overnight cooking and then soaking and then all day cooking that it used to be, and it's simply because they're fresher. I mean, over time when they're stored, they dry. The shell gets less permeable to water, so it takes more time for them to cook. So it's
Yeah, it's funny. I actually noticed that because a lot of chili recipes call for soaking the beans overnight and then cooking them all day long. And they say, oh, you can't make chili by putting those soaked beans right into the chili. You've got to boil the beans for 4 hours first and then make your chili. And that's just not true with these beans.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the way that we prepare them almost always now is we put them in soaking water, bring the water to a boil, and shut the heat off and let them sit for an hour. Change the water. And for black beans and smaller beans, less than an hour they'll be ready to eat. For the larger beans, pinto beans and kidney beans, it might be a little over an hour. But it's less than, 2.5 hours from the time you start, you can be eating beans. It's just, yeah. And what I think is really important, which is easy to do, is to undercook beans, because you can actually sort of take them out, taste them, and chew it up and say, oh, that's not bad. But if you let them cook till they get really soft, the flavor really comes out more strong and better. So.
And they're still a little floury and mealy. They don't have that real savory taste that they'll get. Yeah.
But we I mean, we eat beans like a snack food. We cook up black beans and just they sit in the refrigerator in a bowl, and we just go grab a handful and eat them like a handful of peanuts. So.
Oh wow.
Because I mean, I really think they do taste better. And the other thing that I think a lot of people have forgotten is how much better dry beans from any source taste better than canned beans.
Oh yes.
So,
No doubt. I mean, the canned beans are cooked all the way.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I think that people have had the experience of not cooking the beans enough, and so then they just by default buy those cans of beans, and it's really, there's just such a difference in the flavor and the texture, and not only that, but you know, the difference that you're making by not buying the can, by buying something that's local and doing it yourself. Here, people who live in the Finger Lakes area have the opportunity to go to farms and to really get hands-on and understand where the food comes from. And you know, my kids are fascinated to see how the beans are cleaned, and how turkeys are raised, and all of those different things. So what does a red pepper look like when it's growing on a plant? I think that a lot of kids would be fascinated by that, but there's so many kids that grow up saying that carrots grow underground. What?
Or even the beans go on a pod.
Right.
We learned so much about different kinds of beans at Cayuga Pure Organics, and now we're ready to cook. Today we're going to make a basic chili recipe with beef and the small red beans that they were sorting today. This is a recipe that you could adapt in many different ways. You could add a lot of different things to it. We actually like to put red and green peppers in it, and when it's too hot and the girls want to eat it in a hurry, we put frozen corn in to help cool it off. It's great with cheese on top and sour cream, so try mixing up the spices and adding some different fun ingredients. This chili is great with a cornbread topping, so Rebecca is going to show us how to make the cornbread.
That will be a lot of fun.
We're going to start our chili by browning a pound of beef. I've got a pound of fairly lean organic local beef here. When the beef is brown and mostly done, we're going to add 1 medium onion chopped and 3 cloves of garlic, also chopped up. Then we're going to add our spices. Now, you could use a regular chili powder if you wanted to, but what I like to do is make my own mix of spices. So this is similar to what you'd get from a fairly basic chili powder. I like the flavors a little better. We've got 3 tablespoons of paprika, a tablespoon of oregano, a teaspoon of cumin seeds, a teaspoon of turmeric, and half a teaspoon of red chili flakes. This will make a chili with a lot of flavor, but not a super hot, spicy chili.
It makes some beef really pretty.
Yeah. Then we're going to add a quart of crushed tomatoes. About that much water to start off with, or of course you could use beef stock. And a pound of the small red chili beans that we've started cooking. A of course, we'll add salt and freshly ground black pepper to taste. And then we just need to let it simmer for about 3 hours. Oh, you can stir. Be slow though and careful. By bringing our beans to a boil and cooking them for about an hour before we had them in the chili, we've speeded up our cooking time a little bit. So now we're ready to make our cornbread topping.
So this cornbread recipe is really good for corn muffins, cornbread, as well for this yummy cornbread topping. First, we're going to preheat the oven for 425 degrees. Then we're going to add 1 cup of flour, 1 cup of cornmeal, about 3 tablespoons of sugar, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, and a teaspoon of salt. Now, Emma, can you help me stir it? Stir it not so fast because we don't want anything to fly out. No, I don't want. Okay. Now, while that's going on, I'm gonna put in 2 eggs. Scramble them. One cup of milk. And about 1/4 cup of butter. Melted butter. Okay, now we're gonna add this to our very nicely stirred dry. Okay, Emma, but I need to pour in some. I need to pour in something, and then you can stir again. No. So we've washed our spatula, and now Emma's gonna help us stir the cornbread. I want to stir it. Okay. We don't want to stir this mix too much because if we have too big flour lumps, it won't rise properly. So it's better for the rising process if we just stir it very slowly and not too much.
This cornbread topping is great to use with chili leftovers. What I like to do is use an oven-safe pan that's about the right size for the amount of chili that I have left over. And you need to make sure you have enough space in the pan. So there should be probably about 1 inch of space or close to 1 inch of space at the top of the pan. You don't want it to be too deep or the cornbread won't brown. But if you fill it up too much, your chili is going to bubble up and overflow down the sides. So this is about the right size for the amount of leftover chili I have. And what we want to do is just put small globs of cornbread on top of the chili. You don't want to use really big lumps or it'll kind of sink down in, but just sort of an even layer of small drops. So Rebecca and Emma are going to help out with this. There we go. All right. You give it a try, Emma. Let's put it right on there. Just let it drip. That's great. Okay. All right. Oh. Okay. Now it's going to be Rebecca's turn.
No, I want a spoon.
Well, we've got to finish before you can lick the spoon. You can have another turn. I think if you really wanted to, you could probably write your name in cornbread or make a cornbread sunshine on top of the chili, but you could also just really quickly drop it on the top and, have it done fast. And because you've got a fairly thin layer of cornbread, it's going to be pretty quick in the oven. You probably need about 15 minutes. It's of course going to depend on how much chili you have in your pan. All right. You can. Okay, there you go. Okay, let's not put it on top of the other cornbread. Let's put it in a new spot that doesn't have any. Great.
I want some more.
Okay. Another option is to do individual bowls of chili with a cornbread topping. You could just take a small ramekin, any small oven-safe container that's a serving size, and put the cornbread on top of that as well. And have individual chilies. All right, we're ready to try our chili with the cornbread topping and a little sour cream for garnish.
Oh.
Well, yeah. Mmm.
Hot.
Cornbread and chili is a great combination. Yeah.
But mine's hot.
Mm. Okay, for that. Is it yummy? Yeah. Cornbread and chili and sour cream.